There is a kind of attraction that doesn't come from trying, performing, or chasing attention. It happens quietly. It happens when a woman walks into a room and changes the emotional temperature without saying much at all. Men feel it before they understand it, and that's what makes it dangerous. Not dangerous in a dramatic way, but in a way that lingers in the mind long after the moment has passed. Most people think seduction is about appearance or bold moves, but the most powerful pull comes from subtle behaviors: how she listens, how she pauses, how she holds her space. These behaviors don't beg to be noticed. They invite curiosity. They create tension. They make a man lean in emotionally without realizing why. Once you recognize these patterns, you stop thinking attraction as luck or magic. You begin to see it as something deeper, rooted in presence, self-respect, and emotional strength, and that changes everything. Quiet confidence creates a level of attraction that loud attention never can, because it signals internal security rather than external need. When a woman is quietly confident, she is not trying to convince anyone of her value. She assumes it. This assumption changes how she moves, speaks, and responds. There is no rush in her behavior, no urgency to be seen, no anxiety about being chosen. That absence of need is what draws attention naturally. Men are instinctively drawn to what feels stable and grounded because it creates emotional safety mixed with intrigue. Loud attention often comes from a desire to be noticed, approved of, or validated, and while it may attract quickly, it also reveals insecurity beneath the surface. Quiet confidence, on the other hand, suggests that validation already exists within. This kind of confidence shows up in subtle ways. It appears in how she listens without interrupting, how she pauses before responding, how she maintains eye contact without forcing it. Her body language is relaxed, not performative. She doesn't over-explain herself or rush to fill silence. Silence becomes her ally rather than something to escape. This creates emotional tension because silence invites projection. Men begin to wonder what she's thinking, what she knows, what she feels. Curiosity grows in the space she doesn't rush to fill. Quiet confidence also affects how boundaries are held. A woman who is secure doesn't need to announce her limits aggressively or justify them excessively. She simply states them calmly and stands by them. This calm firmness communicates strength without confrontation. Men experience this as deeply seductive because it reflects self-respect without hostility. There is no power struggle, no emotional volatility, just clarity. Clarity is attractive because it removes chaos while preserving mystery. Another aspect of quiet confidence is emotional steadiness. When emotions are expressed thoughtfully rather than impulsively, they carry more weight. A woman who doesn't react dramatically to every situation feels emotionally mature. Men feel less pressure to manage her emotions and more freedom to connect authentically. Loud attention often involves exaggerated emotional displays meant to provoke response. Quiet confidence trusts that genuine connection doesn't need exaggeration. This trust itself becomes magnetic. There is also an element of unpredictability in quiet confidence. Because she is not trying to control perception, her behavior feels natural rather than rehearsed. Men cannot easily categorize her or anticipate her reactions. This unpredictability keeps interest alive. Loud attention tends to follow patterns designed to get results. Quiet confidence follows inner alignment, which feels more organic and harder to manipulate. What cannot be easily influenced becomes more desirable. Quiet confidence shifts power dynamics without effort. Instead of seeking attention, attention gravitates toward her. This reversal is subtle but powerful. Men begin to invest emotionally because they sense that her attention is selective. When she gives time or interest, it feels earned rather than assumed. This makes connection feel meaningful. Loud attention distributes itself freely, which reduces its perceived value. Scarcity increases desire, and quiet confidence naturally creates scarcity without intention. This form of confidence also communicates independence. A woman who is quietly confident does not rely on constant reassurance to feel secure. She enjoys connection but does not depend on it to define her worth. Men sense this independence and often respond with deeper respect and attraction. Desire grows where there is choice, not dependence. Loud attention can feel consuming, even overwhelming. Quiet confidence feels spacious, allowing attraction to breathe. Men often describe this type of woman as unforgettable, not because of dramatic gestures, but because of how she made them feel in her presence. Calm, grounded, seen, yet slightly off, balance in a way that sparks curiosity. That emotional imprint lingers longer than any loud display ever could. Quiet confidence doesn't try to dominate a room. It influences it subtly, changing the emotional tone without announcement. What makes quiet confidence dangerously seductive is that it cannot be faked for long. It comes from inner alignment, self-awareness, and acceptance. Attempts to imitate it without internal work often collapse into silence that feels empty rather than full. True quiet confidence carries substance. It is felt rather than displayed, sensed rather than proven, and that is why it leaves such a lasting impact on the people who encounter it. Emotional self-control creates a powerful form of attraction because it signals depth, maturity, and inner strength. When a woman can experience emotion without being overtaken by it, she communicates that her inner world is rich but regulated. Men often find this dangerously seductive because it creates emotional tension rather than emotional chaos. Chaos can be exciting for a moment, but tension keeps the mind engaged. Emotional self-control allows feelings to exist without spilling everywhere, and what is contained becomes valuable. This behavior shows itself in how she responds under pressure. Instead of reacting immediately, she pauses. That pause is not emptiness. It is awareness. Men sense that something is happening beneath the surface, and that awareness draws them in. The pause invites curiosity because it suggests thoughtfulness rather than impulsivity. When reactions are delayed, they carry intention. Intention feels meaningful. Meaning creates attachment. Emotional self-control also changes how conflict feels. A woman who remains calm during disagreement does not escalate situations or seek dominance. She listens, responds clearly, and does not lose herself in the need to win. This creates a sense of emotional safety while preserving strength. Men often associate emotional expression with volatility because they have experienced unmanaged emotion in the past. When emotion is expressed with control, it feels different. It feels rare. That rarity increases attraction. Another reason emotional self-control is seductive is because it prevents emotional predictability. When emotions are constantly displayed, they become easy to read and easy to manage. When emotions are expressed selectively, they gain weight. Men pay more attention because they sense that her emotional energy is not always accessible. This selective expression creates emotional scarcity, and scarcity intensifies desire. Emotional self-control also protects intimacy. A woman who does not overshare immediately allows connection to build gradually. This pacing gives men time to invest emotionally rather than becoming overwhelmed. Intimacy that unfolds slowly feels earned. It carries more depth because it is not rushed. Emotional control does not mean emotional distance. It means emotional timing. Timing shapes how deeply emotions are felt. There is also an element of trust created by emotional regulation. Men trust people who can manage their emotional responses because they feel less threatened by unpredictability. Trust is a foundation of attraction that lasts. Emotional instability may spark intense attraction initially, but it erodes trust over time. Emotional self-control sustains attraction because it balances intensity with stability. This behavior also communicates self-respect. A woman who does not allow her emotions to be provoked easily shows that her inner state is not controlled by external forces. Men respect this because it reflects autonomy. Autonomy is attractive because it suggests choice rather than dependence. Emotional self-control signals that she chooses when and how to engage emotionally. Men often feel challenged by emotional self-control in a subtle way. They may find themselves wanting to elicit a reaction, not to manipulate, but to understand. This challenge keeps emotional focus alive. When reactions are automatic, interest fades. When reactions are thoughtful, attention increases. Emotional self-control also shifts the dynamic of pursuit. Instead of chasing validation, she allows interest to reveal itself naturally. Men step forward emotionally when they sense that emotional access must be earned. This dynamic creates mutual respect rather than imbalance. What makes emotional self-control dangerously seductive is that it cannot be separated from authenticity. Suppressing emotion feels cold and disconnected. Regulating emotion feels warm and grounded. Men sense the difference. Regulation suggests emotional intelligence. Intelligence of any kind is attractive, but emotional intelligence touches connection directly. This behavior leaves a lasting impression because it creates emotional clarity rather than confusion. Men remember how they felt around someone who made emotions feel safe, intentional, and meaningful. Emotional self-control does not overpower. It invites. It does not overwhelm. It draws in slowly, deeply, and with lasting impact. Authenticity creates a form of attraction that feels both grounding and unsettling because it cannot be predicted, copied, or controlled. When a woman is authentically herself, she is not performing for approval or shaping her behavior to fit expectations. This absence of performance changes the emotional atmosphere around her. Men sense that what they are experiencing is real, not curated. Realness carries weight because it removes illusion. What is real cannot be easily dismissed, and that makes it powerful. Authenticity shows in small, unfiltered moments. It appears in how she laughs when something genuinely amuses her, not when it is socially expected. It shows in her willingness to express disagreement calmly without needing to dominate or retreat. These moments signal self-trust. A woman who trusts herself does not need constant reinforcement from others. Men feel this self-trust as emotional solidity. Solidity creates attraction because it feels stable yet alive. One reason authenticity feels dangerously seductive is because it disrupts predictability. Men are accustomed to patterns shaped by social conditioning, performance, and expectation. When a woman does not follow these patterns, she becomes difficult to categorize. The mind naturally focuses on what it cannot easily place. Curiosity grows, and curiosity sustains interest. Authenticity keeps attention engaged because it does not rely on repetition or strategy. Authentic behavior also communicates emotional courage. Being oneself without guarantees of approval requires inner strength. Men often recognize this subconsciously. They sense that she is not adjusting her identity to maintain connection. This creates respect, and respect deepens attraction. Attraction without respect fades quickly. Authenticity ensures that attraction is rooted in something solid rather than superficial. Another aspect of authenticity is emotional congruence. What she feels, thinks, and expresses are aligned. There is no gap between inner experience and outer behavior. This alignment creates emotional clarity. Men feel less confusion around someone who is authentic, even when the emotions involved are complex. Clarity reduces anxiety while preserving depth. That balance is rare and compelling. Authenticity also invites vulnerability without demanding it. When someone is authentic, they create a space where others feel safe to be real as well. Men may find themselves opening up unexpectedly, not because they were pushed, but because the environment felt honest. This mutual authenticity builds emotional connection without force. Connection that emerges naturally feels more intense and memorable. There is also a subtle power in not trying to impress. When a woman does not seek to be impressive, she becomes impressive by default. Men sense that her worth is not dependent on their reaction. This independence shifts the emotional dynamic. Interest grows when there is no pressure to perform. Performance creates evaluation. Authenticity creates presence. Authenticity can feel dangerous because it cannot be negotiated. Men cannot influence it by withholding attention or offering approval. This lack of leverage creates tension. Tension keeps emotional focus alive. When someone cannot be easily influenced, they become more psychologically compelling. Another reason authenticity is seductive is because it reflects inner coherence. A woman who is at peace with who she is carries a calm intensity. She does not chase validation, yet she is open to connection. This balance between openness and self-containment creates emotional magnetism. Men feel drawn to what feels whole. Authenticity also allows for imperfection. Instead of hiding flaws, she acknowledges them without self-judgment. This honesty humanizes her while preserving confidence. Men often feel relief around someone who does not require perfection. That relief strengthens attachment. What lingers most about authenticity is its emotional aftertaste. Men may not remember specific conversations, but they remember how being around her felt honest, grounded, and real. Authenticity leaves an imprint because it engages both the mind and the nervous system. It cannot be replicated through technique. It can only be lived, and that lived quality is what makes it unforgettable. Independence creates attraction because it signals wholeness rather than need. When a woman has her own life, passions, routines, and sense of purpose, she brings energy into a connection instead of drawing it out of someone else. Men feel this difference immediately. It feels lighter, more balanced, and more respectful. Independence does not close the door to intimacy. It changes the reason intimacy exists. Connection becomes a choice rather than a requirement, and choice carries power. A woman who is independent does not rush availability. Her time is structured around her values, not around gaining attention. This naturally creates boundaries without effort. Men experience these boundaries as intriguing rather than rejecting because they are not built on fear. They are built on self-respect. When attention is not instantly accessible, it becomes more meaningful when it is offered. Independence also communicates emotional stability. A woman who can stand on her own does not seek someone else to regulate her emotions or define her worth. Men sense that being with her would add to their life, not become a responsibility. This perception increases attraction because it removes pressure. Desire grows in spaces where there is freedom, not obligation. Another aspect of independence is decisiveness. An independent woman knows what she wants and what she does not. She does not wait for permission to move forward or adjust her direction. This clarity creates confidence in interaction. Men feel drawn to decisiveness because it reflects inner alignment. Uncertainty drains energy. Clarity concentrates it. Independence also affects communication. She expresses needs without demand and preferences without apology. There is no emotional bargaining or silent expectation. This directness feels refreshing. Men do not feel tested or manipulated. They feel invited into a connection that already stands strong on its own. There is also a subtle shift in power dynamics. Independence removes the leverage of withdrawal or approval. A woman who is fulfilled on her own cannot be easily controlled by attention or neglect. Men sense this, and it changes how they engage. Respect increases because influence decreases. Paradoxically, when someone cannot be controlled, they become more compelling. Independence keeps attraction alive because it allows space. Space is not distance. Space is room for desire to breathe. When two people are not emotionally fused, they can miss each other. Missing someone is part of attraction. Independence preserves that emotional rhythm. Another seductive element of independence is growth. An independent woman continues to evolve regardless of relationship status. Men feel inspired by this forward motion. Stagnation dulls attraction. Growth energizes it. Being around someone who is growing creates momentum. Independence also protects individuality. Instead of merging identities, she maintains her own perspective, values, and interests. This preserves polarity. Polarity fuels attraction. When identities blur, desire weakens. Independence keeps individuality intact. What makes independence dangerously seductive is that it removes desperation from the equation. Men are not being chosen because they are needed, but because they are wanted. Being wanted feels far more powerful than being needed. It activates pride rather than obligation. Independence also creates emotional safety. A woman who can walk away from what does not align with her values is not threatening, she is secure. Men feel this security as calm rather than fear. Calm attraction lasts longer than intense volatility. The presence of independence changes how connection is experienced. It feels intentional, balanced, and alive. Men may not consciously analyze it, but they feel the difference. Independence does not demand attention. It attracts it naturally through strength, clarity, and self-trust. Presence is one of the most underestimated yet powerful behaviors that creates deep attraction. When a woman is fully present, her attention is undivided, her energy is grounded, and her awareness is anchored in the moment. Men feel this immediately because it is rare in a world full of distraction. Presence communicates value without words. It says that this moment matters, that the person in front of her is seen, not scanned or half noticed. Being seen is emotionally powerful, and emotional power translates into attraction. A woman who is present does not rush conversation or multitask while listening. She allows pauses to exist without discomfort. These pauses are not awkward, they are spacious. Space allows emotion to surface naturally. Men often feel more open and relaxed in this environment because they are not being evaluated or hurried. Presence removes performance pressure. When performance drops, authenticity rises and connection deepens. Presence also sharpens emotional perception. When a woman is attentive, she notices subtle changes in tone, posture, and energy. She responds to what is felt rather than what is said. This creates emotional attunement. Men feel understood on a level that bypasses words. Feeling understood activates attachment because it meets a deep psychological need for recognition. Another seductive aspect of presence is stillness. Stillness carries confidence. A woman who is comfortable being still does not seek to fill silence with noise or explanation. Stillness invites focus. Men naturally lean in, both physically and emotionally, because stillness creates gravity. Loudness repels focus. Calmness draws it. Presence also communicates emotional maturity. It shows that she is not living in the past or anxiously projecting into the future. She is here. Men feel grounded around someone who is present because the nervous system responds to stability. Stability mixed with attentiveness creates safety, and safety allows attraction to deepen rather than stay superficial. Eye contact is another dimension of presence. When eye contact is steady and natural, not forced, it creates a sense of intimacy without intrusion. Men often interpret this as confidence and sincerity. It feels personal without being overwhelming. This balance keeps emotional tension alive. Presence also affects how moments are remembered. Men may not recall exact words, but they remember how it felt to be in her presence. The memory is emotional rather than factual. Emotional memory is stronger and more lasting. This is why presence leaves a lingering impression long after the interaction ends. Another reason presence is dangerously seductive is because it cannot be faked for long. True presence requires inner quiet. When a woman is not at war with herself, her attention becomes stable. Men sense this internal harmony and respond to it. Disharmony creates noise. Harmony creates resonance. Presence also shifts power dynamics. Instead of seeking attention, she becomes the one whose attention is valuable. Men become aware of when they have it and when they do not. This awareness increases focus. Attention flows toward where it feels meaningful. There is also a nurturing quality to presence without it becoming caretaking. She does not try to fix or guide. She simply witnesses. This witnessing allows men to feel accepted without being managed. Acceptance without control is deeply attractive. Presence connects directly to emotional intelligence. It allows a woman to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Men experience this as calm strength. Calm strength feels rare and grounding. What makes presence so seductive is its simplicity. It requires no strategy, no performance, no effort to impress. It is the natural result of inner alignment. Men may not label it, but they feel it deeply. Presence turns ordinary moments into meaningful ones, and meaningful moments create emotional attachment that lasts. Self-respect is the silent force that amplifies every other attractive quality because it shapes how a woman allows herself to be treated, spoken to, and valued. When self-respect is present, it is felt immediately in her posture, her choices, and her standards. Men sense this not through rules she announces, but through the calm certainty with which she moves through interactions. She does not demand respect loudly. She assumes it, and that assumption changes the emotional tone around her. A woman with self-respect does not tolerate behavior that contradicts her values. She does not argue extensively or try to convince someone to treat her better. She simply removes herself emotionally or physically when lines are crossed. This quiet withdrawal communicates more powerfully than confrontation. Men find this seductive because it reflects inner strength and emotional discipline. There is no chaos, no drama, just clarity. Self-respect also shows in how she speaks about herself. She does not diminish her needs to appear easygoing, nor does she exaggerate her worth to be noticed. Her self-view is balanced. This balance feels stable and trustworthy. Men feel less pressure and more admiration around someone who knows where she stands without constant comparison or self-doubt. Another aspect of self-respect is patience. A woman who respects herself does not rush intimacy to secure connection. She allows time to reveal character, consistency, and intention. This pacing creates emotional depth. Men become more invested when they sense that access is not automatic. Access that is earned carries value. Value deepens desire. Self-respect also influences boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines for healthy interaction. When boundaries are clear and calmly enforced, men feel oriented rather than restricted. They know where they stand. Clarity reduces confusion and increases attraction. Ambiguity may create excitement initially, but it weakens trust over time. There is also a dignity in how a self-respecting woman handles disappointment. She does not collapse emotionally or seek validation through over-explanation. She processes privately and responds with composure. This emotional dignity leaves a strong impression. Men remember the way someone handled vulnerability more than the vulnerability itself. Self-respect changes the dynamic of desire. Instead of seeking to be chosen, she chooses. This shift is subtle but powerful. Men feel the difference between being needed and being wanted. Being wanted feels validating. It engages pride rather than obligation. Another seductive element of self-respect is consistency. Her values do not fluctuate based on attention or mood. This consistency creates reliability. Reliability does not kill attraction, it stabilizes it. Stable attraction lasts longer and feels deeper. Self-respect also prevents emotional overexposure. She does not reveal everything immediately, not out of secrecy, but out of discernment. Discernment suggests wisdom. Wisdom is attractive because it signals long-term thinking. What makes self-respect dangerously seductive is that it removes negotiation around worth. Men cannot bargain with attention or withdrawal. This absence of leverage increases psychological interest. People are drawn to what cannot be easily controlled. Self-respect does not harden the heart, it protects it. Men feel this protection as strength rather than distance. Strength combined with warmth creates a rare emotional balance. When a woman carries self-respect, attraction becomes a byproduct rather than a goal. Men feel drawn not because she is trying to pull them in, but because her presence reflects value, clarity, and inner alignment that speaks without words. Self-respect amplifies allure in ways that are often invisible yet profoundly felt. When a woman values herself, her behavior communicates a quiet, but powerful message: she will not settle for less than she deserves. This is not about arrogance or superiority. It is about alignment with her own principles and standards. Men sense this immediately, not because she asserts it verbally, but because it is embedded in the way she carries herself, makes decisions, and interacts with the world. The weight of self-respect is magnetic, subtle, and impossible to ignore. A woman with self-respect does not bend her values to appease others. She does not alter her opinions or compromise her ethics to gain approval. She stands firm, calmly, without aggression or defensiveness. This firmness creates clarity in social dynamics because it sets expectations without argument or manipulation. Men instinctively recognize this strength, and it creates admiration mixed with desire. The danger, in the sense of being seductive, comes from the fact that she cannot be easily influenced, swayed, or owned. Her presence commands attention naturally because it is rooted in integrity rather than effort. Boundaries are an extension of self-respect. A woman who knows her worth communicates limits clearly and enforces them without guilt. She does not tolerate disrespect, neglect, or emotional manipulation. Men feel these boundaries, and they respond in ways that respect them. Boundaries create a rhythm in interactions that draws people in. They are not walls. They are a frame that defines the space where meaningful connection can occur. When a woman enforces her boundaries with calm assurance, it makes her presence more compelling because it signals that connection must be chosen consciously and not taken for granted. Self-respect also influences how she handles attention and desire. She does not chase validation or force engagement. Instead, she observes, responds thoughtfully, and allows interactions to unfold naturally. Men experience this as a challenge that is engaging rather than frustrating. The very act of not seeking constant approval heightens her value because it creates a sense of earned attention. Emotional investment grows when it feels freely given rather than demanded, and men are drawn to the energy of someone who maintains this balance. Another critical aspect is emotional regulation. A self-respecting woman does not react impulsively to every slight or moment of tension. She maintains composure even when faced with provocation or uncertainty. This steadiness is seductive because it provides safety while simultaneously asserting strength. Men feel both respect and attraction because the woman's emotions are intentional, not erratic. Emotional intentionality signals maturity and reliability, qualities that are deeply magnetic and psychologically compelling. Self-respect also manifests in the way she interacts socially. She does not diminish herself to elevate someone else, nor does she exaggerate her value to impress. Her confidence is rooted in reality and reinforced by consistent actions. Men perceive this congruence between words, actions, and values, and it creates trust and admiration. Trust generated by authenticity is far more compelling than desire based on superficial traits or fleeting attention. Patience is another dimension of self-respect. She does not rush intimacy, emotional or physical. She allows connections to develop organically at a pace that aligns with her principles. This pacing increases the intensity of desire because men feel that emotional access is earned rather than automatic. Earned access creates depth, attachment, and fascination. The longer something is experienced thoughtfully, the more impact it has on the mind and heart. Self-respect also communicates independence. A woman who knows her worth is not dependent on someone else for validation, fulfillment, or identity. Men sense this independence, and it generates both admiration and subtle intrigue. When someone does not rely on them for emotional stability, they are free to invest voluntarily. Freedom creates desire, dependence often diminishes it. The psychological effect is that attraction becomes rooted in voluntary engagement rather than obligation, which is far more compelling. Another layer of seduction comes from the combination of warmth and firmness. A woman with self-respect can be kind, approachable, and engaging without compromising her principles. This balance between accessibility and steadfastness creates a tension that is psychologically magnetic. Men feel drawn to her not just for who she is in the moment, but for the consistent energy she embodies. That energy resonates and lingers. Finally, self-respect leaves a lasting impression because it shapes the overall dynamic of interaction. Men do not need overt drama, flamboyant gestures, or constant attention to be captivated. The presence of self-respect alone commands emotional focus and fosters admiration. It creates a subtle but undeniable gravitational pull. Men are not merely interested, they are drawn to engage, invest, and reflect, often without fully understanding why. Self-respect transforms ordinary interactions into encounters that are meaningful, memorable, and deeply magnetic. When you look closely at what truly draws people in, it becomes clear that seduction is not about loud gestures, superficial charm, or calculated moves. The most dangerously magnetic behaviors are subtle, quiet, and rooted in inner strength. A woman who embodies quiet confidence, emotional self-control, authenticity, independence, presence, and self-respect does not need to chase attention. She attracts it naturally. These behaviors are magnetic because they reflect alignment with her own values, clarity in thought, and emotional stability, qualities that are rare and deeply compelling. Men sense this energy before they fully understand it, and it creates connection, curiosity, and respect. True attraction comes not from manipulation or performance, but from being whole, grounded, and unwavering in your worth. When a woman cultivates these traits, she inspires admiration, desire, and lasting influence simply by being herself fully and unapologetically.